Hello everyone, welcome back. In my previous videos, I talked about the virtual machine creation. Now in this one, I will talk about the storage account creation. How do you create a storage account? What are different options that you see when you're trying to create a storage account? Now, when you're trying to create a storage account, you have the same options. You can click on create a resource and then search for the type of resource that you want to create, or you can search storage account, go to the storage account section and click on create. This I usually do this because I'm used to this. You can you can use any of these methods. Now when you're trying to create a storage account or you're trying to create any resource in Azure, the two components or two options that you always need is the subscription and the resource group. Now I have only one subscription, so I choose this one. If you have any other subscription or if you have multiple subscriptions, you can choose which subscription you want. You can choose which resource group you want. I will use this resource group. I choose my storage account name. Now one thing about the storage account name is this has to be unique. For example, I use this, it is already taken. Now my storage account name is globally unique, which means there can be only one name, one storage account with that name across Azure. Now why that is, I'll show it later, but this has to be only unique. Now what I usually do is I use something like either my name if I'm doing a testing, because I know this will be unique, or if this is a something else where I can use numbers. Using numbers also kind of makes it unique. So I use this name. You choose the region that you want. This can be any region, and then you use the performance. I touched based on the standard and premium in my virtual machine creation video. Standard gives you the general performance, the standard performance, but it is cheaper than premium. Premium is expensive, but as the name suggests, it is a premium storage type, which means it has high input output options, IO throughput. It gives you better performance. If you are planning to run an application that is resource intensive, for example, you're planning to run a database, and database will have obviously a lot of read and writes, you need high performance, you can go with premium. But if you're just running a static website, or if you're running any application that is not resource intensive, you can go with the standard one. Now this is a test, I go with standard. Then you have redundancy option, whether you want LRS, you want GRS, ZRS, local redundant, geo zone, and geo zone redundant. This gives you high availability feature, high availability option. Local redundant, it only has 3 copies in that particular data center, in that particular region. Geo is across the geography, zone is across the zone, and geo zone is across the zone and geo zone. Now depending on what option you choose, you get the pricing varies. I'll go with LRS. I go with locally redundant because this is just a bare minimum. This is not it's just a test. And next is the TLS version, which better you keep default, or because nobody wants to use the older TLS versions, you choose the default one. This is one thing. When you're dealing with data lake storage, or you're dealing with data pipelines, you need a data lake storage account. If you are planning to use a data lake storage account, this option enables this hierarchical namespace, and you have a data lake storage account. I'm not choosing this, but if I choose this, I'll have my data lake storage account created. Now access tier, hot, cool, this I think I will talk about later in detail, because this is itself a broader topic. Access tier is depending on how frequently you're planning to access the data. The pricing varies. Whereas hot access tier is ideal for the data that is frequently accessed. It is also called life cycle management. Cool access tier is which is infrequently accessed. The read cost is more than the write one. The archive is which you have to then re-archive and then use it. If you are, I mean, I've rarely seen anybody using cool or anything else apart from hot. I've not seen people using archive. People might use archive if your organization has retention policies where you want to keep your data stored for certain time because of legal compliance issues. You are not going to read that data you might need once in a while. You can go with the archive or cool, but if you're planning to access the data frequently, better go with hot. Next is networking. It's the same thing, whether you want your storage account to be accessed across the over the internet, you want to disable public access and create a private endpoint. We will talk about private endpoint in some other video, but private endpoint enables other resources to access. For example, this is a storage account and I have my web app. For example, I have my web application and my web application wants to use data or from a storage account, and I do not want that access to happen over the internet. I can enable private endpoint on my web app and I can enable private endpoint on my storage account, and then the access happens over the Microsoft backbone. It doesn't go over the internet. Now I choose public access. I do not go with private endpoint, but you have an option of choosing what kind of. Now there is one option also, you can enable public access from certain virtual network, and then you have an option of whitelisting your IP, which means your local machine IP or anything that you want. I choose enable public access. Data protection, you have the retention policy. If you delete this storage account by mistake, it will keep it. It's kind of a recycle bin that you have on your machine. It will keep it stored for next 7 days for blob, for container, and for file share. And then you have the default encryption, which again I talked. If you have your encryption keys, you can use customer managed keys. But if you want to use the default, Microsoft will take care of your encryption keys. You don't really have to deal with that. Next is tags. You use tags. For example, I use case and I use demo, right? And tag, I want to tag my resource. Next review, it runs a final validation. It tells me that I'm creating this particular storage account in this particular resource group and with these properties, and then I click on create and my storage account is created. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, anything, you can post down in the comments. I'll try to get back on this, but creating a storage account is fairly simple. I do not see a lot of challenges. In some other video, I'll probably try to cover creation of storage account using Terraform, or if you want me to demo pipeline, I can probably do that. Creation of Azure resources using pipelines. It can be based on the tool that you want, whether you want Azure DevOps, whether you want Jenkins, or you want CloudBees, or you want anything else. But there you go, my storage account is created. This is the storage account that I create. Now there, if you remember, I told you this name has to be unique. Now if I go to endpoints, if you see my blob gets an endpoint, test blog 09 is my storage account name, .blob.core.windows.net. Now I do not have any files in this. If I create containers and store my files, I can just use this URL to access those blobs. Now this, since it gets a URL, this is the reason why my name has to be unique. Perfect. And I think that covers everything about storage account. Let me know if you need me to cover anything else. Meanwhile, take care, have a good day, keep learning. Thank you.